Welcome back in, everybody. Happy 2020. The year is done. 2019 has come and gone, and we have got our 2019 Bourbinsane Whiskey Awards. Now, as you can see, we've got multiple categories we're going to be doing today. 2019 was a great year for whiskey. Had a lot of really good stuff. A couple disappointing things too, so we're going to talk about all of them. I just want to say a quick thank you so much to everybody who supported the channel in 2019. 2019 was an awesome year, my first full year on YouTube, and I just want to thank each and every one of you for being here today and for all you did for me in 2019. So, starting off, these are just my opinions, okay? Just my opinions. I don't agree with some of the experts in the field on what they think for some of these whiskeys. So this is just what I think, what my favorite whiskeys were in 2019, what I was disappointed with in 2019, so just be aware of that, okay? Let's start out with our first category, top value whiskeys. Top 3 value whiskeys. Now this is going to be value to whiskey ratio, so price to the juice you're getting in the bottle. Coming in at number 3, one of my favorite rye whiskeys, Pikesville Rye. I love this bottle. This comes out of Heaven Hill Distillery. It's pretty much just the older brother of Rittenhouse Rye, so the mixer I use all the time, Rittenhouse. Pikesville is 6 years old. They consider it a Maryland rye. But as I mentioned, comes out of Heaven Hill. It is a barely legal rye, so 51% rye. The flavors that just come through on this, it's just classic rye whiskey. 110 proof, so you're getting awesome proof coming through. I just love everything about this bottle. As far as price goes, this is right around a $40 price point, which is unheard of for what this is. I've heard other parts of the country can get this sub 40. So as far as value to whiskey ratio goes, this is one of the best bottles out there. I couldn't not include it in the value whiskeys. Coming in at number 2 for our top value whiskeys, had to put this on the list, Wild Turkey Rare Breed. Again, another bottle that's only about $40. Some parts of the country sub $40. Just crazy. This is a barrel proof whiskey coming out of Wild Turkey Distillery. They advertised it as high rye. It's really not super high rye. I think it's around 13% rye, so not a huge amount. Wild Turkey 101, the classic budget option, probably my favorite budget bourbon out there. This is just the older brother. So this is a blend of 8, 10, 12-year-old whiskeys all put into one. And just a barrel proof at around 40 bucks. It's great. Great stuff. I love the flavor profile Wild Turkey has anyway. And Rare Breed is just a great bottle. It's something you should always stock. Again, value to whiskey ratio, this needs to be near the top of your list. Topping my list for the 2019 best value whiskey, Old Grandad 114. Another bottle I could not keep off this list. I don't think there's a better value bottle out there. Sub $30 in lots of parts of the country. After I put my review out of this during the 25 Drams of Christmas, people were saying they can get this for $23, $24. This is near barrel proof, 114 proof. Just one of the best bottles out there for cocktails. One of the best bottles out there to drink neat. Coming out of Jim Beam Distillery, this is a high rye mash bill, so around the 30% rye. And you can tell, I mean, the spice just comes through on the back of the palate on this. It gives you the bite you want, gives you a lot of flavor in your whiskey being that higher proof. And the price point, my gosh, it could, the price point's just so good, it had to be the top of my value list. All right, moving on to our next category in the 2019 Whiskey Awards, Best New Core Edition. So this is gonna be the best new addition to a core lineup, and there were a lot of new releases this year. A lot of distilleries decided to add things to their core lineup, so we had a long list to choose from. Let's get right into number 3. Coming in at number 3 was a new bottle that unfortunately I didn't get to get a bottle of, but I was able to try a sample right before the new year. Weller Full Proof. Now, think of just the 107, Weller 107. I love that bottle. This just amplifies it to a whole nother level. Coming out of Buffalo Trace Distillery, about 16 to 18% wheat. We don't know the mash bill, but that's guessed what it is. This would honestly be higher on my list. As far as flavor goes, this was really good. Now the bottle or the sample I did try was a store pick. I love the flavor profile. You know, as I mentioned, I'm a big fan of the 107. The full proof just amplifies all those delicious butterscotch bready notes that I love. This would be higher on the list except availability. You know, being a Buffalo Trace product, being a Weller product specifically, it's on allocation, very difficult to find. About a $60 price point, and it's good stuff. It is really, really good stuff, and it's going to be a great addition to the lineup. I think Weller should probably stop now, like start upping the stocks of the stuff we all want to drink anyway. No more of these label releases that they keep doing. But I will say I think the Full Proof was an excellent addition to the lineup. Coming in at 3, would be higher based on flavor alone, but the availability, allocated, that's why it's number 3 on the list. Coming in at number 2 on my list of the best new core lineup additions is a product actually that the Bourbon Junkies put as their most disappointing whiskey, Four Roses Small Batch Select. For me personally, I was a big fan of this bottle. Initial neck pour, not a huge fan. I was like, it's going to be very, very average. It's not really what I like. But as the bottle opened up, this got good. This got really good to me. Now this is the Small Batch Select, so 104 proof, non-chill filtered. Does come in about $55-$60, which is the definite downside of this, and that's the reason it's not number 1 on my list. It is a blend of 6 recipes from Four Roses. So they put in a lot of those recipes into this Small Batch Select, and they also upped that proof, you know, and added the non-chill filtering. So the specs on the bottle are great. I love the proof. I love the non-chill filtering. I think it's going to be a good addition to the lineup. I do hope eventually the price will come down to about that $45-$50 price point. Possibly after the bourbon boom's over and stocks are replenished and they have a surplus of whiskey, that price could come down. But I actually really like this. I really did. I think it's going to be a good lineup, or a good addition to the lineup going forward. I hope the price will come down. We will see. But if you haven't tried the Small Batch Select, I would recommend you definitely get a sample at least. And if you like it, pick up a bottle. Topping the list for my 2019 Best New Core Lineup Edition, Old Forester Rye. This is a bottle you all should stock. $25, liter bottle, great value. I mean, this could have crossed over into the top value whiskeys list as well. This is an awesome mixer. It is awesome on its own, and the price is just awesome. It's awesome all around. This had to top my list. Now they use a high barley content, 20% barley in this, which is a lot. That's a lot, but to me it adds a very nice floral sweet note that you don't typically find in rye. It's really nice. It's really nice, and I'm really glad it's actually available. You know, when this was announced it was coming out, I was excited because I'm a big Old Forester guy to begin with. But I was really worried I wasn't going to be able to get it. Luckily, their distribution footprint, it seems to be everywhere. I mean, I could even go out now and get another bottle if I wanted to. So that's nice. You know, it's actually available. It's actually there for us to get if we want it. And a very versatile bourbon. Very, very versatile rye whiskey. It's, as I mentioned, great in cocktails. Being 100 proof, it holds up very well to ice too if you do want to drink it with a little ice or on its own. This had to top the list of best new core editions, and I'm glad it's here. I hope it stays at that price point, and it's going to be on my bar for a lot of years to come. Moving on to our next category, we are going to be talking about the top 3 most underrated whiskeys. Now, these are whiskeys that I think don't get enough credit for what they are. Some are really good value, some just really aren't talked about as much as they should be. So let's move right on to number 3. Coming in at number 3 is a barrel proof whiskey that isn't mentioned with some of the greats and classics out there. Jack Daniel's Single Barrel Proof. Now, this is about the $60 price point. Coming out of Brown-Forman, the Jack Daniel's distillery, these are single barrel bottles, but they are all barrel proof and usually very high proof. My bottle here is right around 65%. $60 is a tough price point, especially for high proof stuff. We've got Stag Junior if you can find it, Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, Old Forester 1920s 115 proof. But this is one they don't talk about. A lot of people do not talk about this whiskey. It kind of flies in under the radar, and I think it is one of the most underrated barrel proofs, especially on the market. $50 to $55 in some parts of the country. For me, it's $60, but it's got a very nice balance, especially some of these store picks. So this is one of the best bottles as far as store picks go, I think. Around the same price point, 60 to 65 for store picks for me. But some of these store picks they do of the Jack Daniel's single barrel proofs is really good stuff. If you can find a store pick of this specifically, even just the shelf one is good, right off the shelf. But if you can find a store pick, it is worth the pickup. I'm telling you. It pushes for some of the higher end whiskeys when we do blinds. You throw this in there, it flies in under the radar. People don't think about it. But the flavor profile of Jack Daniel's Barrel Proof is something I really like. Coming in at number 2 for our top 3 most underrated whiskeys. This is a whiskey coming out of Barton Distillery. Very old Barton, 100 proof, the Bottled and Bond. This is a bottle that people in the know, people in the whiskey community, they know this is a good bottle. Some parts of the country, this is like $15. It's crazy. I can't get this locally. I had to get this in Kentucky. But this bottle is half the price or a third of the price of $17.92 Bottled and Bond, just the one you'll get off the shelf. And I'll tell you what, they are way closer than they ever should be. If you have not tried them side by side, it's really close. Really close. I don't know if there's a better $15 bottle out there. This really is. As I mentioned, those of us who know, we probably already have sought this bottle out and don't want to share this with the world that this is really good. But if you have not tried this, the 86 proof is good, but if you can get the Bottled and Bond, the 100 proof, it just amplifies it to a whole nother level. And it gives you great flavor for a $15 bottle. That's why it had to be number 2 on my list. Coming in at number 1 of my top 3 most underrated whiskeys, Early Times Bottled and Bond. This is a liter bottle. Liter bottle, $20 to $25, depending on where you are. Bottled and Bond, at least 4 years, comes out of Early Times Distillery, which is a Brown-Forman product. Everything about this bourbon is just good. We just talked about the very old Barton Bottled and Bond. I prefer this bottle to it myself. As I mentioned, this is a liter bottle, so you're getting excellent price and excellent value. This could again cross over to my value to whiskey ratio list. Every time I have this, I'm expecting to get like an alcohol burn, something, because it's a cheap bottle. It's cheap, but it never does. It always comes through. It gives me a nice nuttiness, nice sweetness also comes through on this. It's just a great bottle overall. If you have not tried this, you need to stock this all the time. Another one that people don't talk about a lot, I don't know if that's because of the price, people consider it just lower shelf, but if I go to a bar and they have this is what I order 9 times out of 10. If I'm just looking for something easy, something I know is going to be consistent and good, Early Times Bottled and Bond is always on the top of my list. Alright, moving on, we've got 2 categories left. Next category we're going to be talking about are the most disappointing whiskeys. A lot of you may not agree with me on these 2, but that's fine. These are just my opinions. I've got 2 of them, my 2 most disappointing whiskeys. Let's get right into number 2. Coming in at number 2, a bottle I had such high hopes for going into the new year when I heard about this was going to be released. Woodford Reserve Chocolate Malted Rye. I was fortunate enough to get a sample of this sent to me from one of my awesome patrons, Christopher David. Thank you, buddy. I'm so glad I got to try this because I almost pulled the trigger and bought a bottle. Decided not to. I'm glad I didn't. The proof to me is just too low. It's just way too low. 45.2, which is the ABV they usually use in Woodford products, the double oaked and the regular. And proof isn't everything. It's not, but the flavors that came through, it was just that chocolate. The chocolate malted rye they use, it came through a lot. It gave you kind of a Nesquik dusted powdered chocolate, Tootsie Roll flavor almost, if you will. But it just wasn't enough. It was not enough. This is a $130 bottle and part of their Masters collection, and it just fell short. It fell short on every level for me. I wish, I think if the proof was over 100 even, I think it would have amplified those flavors and given us a little more. It also had that maltiness come through quite a bit, which for me, I'm not a huge malt guy. At least the strong malt note. And when that popped up on the palate, I wasn't a huge fan of that. So this had to come in at number 2 as my most disappointing whiskey of 2019. All right, topping the list for my most disappointing whiskey of 2019, George Dickel, Bottled in Bond Blue Label. I had such high hopes for this whiskey. This was named Whiskey Advocate's Whiskey of the Year. I don't get it. Like, I just don't get it. How can you possibly put this ahead of some things I'm going to be talking about in just a few short minutes? The bottle on neck pour I thought was actually better than when it opened up. Neck pour I was like, oh, okay, you know, it's got that Flintstone note, that Flintstone vitamin mineral note that the Dickel, classic Dickel has. But as the bottle opened up, it just got like drying to me. The oak came through a lot more, like drying oak that I did not enjoy. And then the Flintstone note to me was still there. You know, I was hoping it would dissipate a little bit, and maybe it did a little, but it just disappointed on every level. Specs on this bottle are great. 13 years, about $35. Bottled in Bond, you know, you got your 100 proof, but so I get it, the specs are good. If you're looking for a value bottle, like this has got the value for what you're getting. But honestly, and I've said this before in other videos, I think what they did is they used barrels that they knew they had to pull. You know, so they tried these barrels, they're like, uh-oh, we gotta pull this now. Like, these are 13-year-old barrels. They're turning. They are turning now. We need to bottle this up. And it's priced at this point for a reason, because it's not that good. It's just not. Like, I don't know how, myself, I don't understand how Whiskey Advocate would put this as their Whiskey of the Year. A lot of people like the whiskey, and I've seen a lot more of it popping up since they named it Whiskey of the Year. But pretty much from the beginning, I was extremely disappointed with this bottle. So much potential. Going into the year, so much potential, and I really thought they would come through. All the honey barrels with this have just gone to companies who are doing store picks. You know, like Smooth Ambler doing store picks of Dickel, Barrel Bourbon. You know, they have a lot of older barrels they use from Dickel as well. So I guess the better barrels have gone outward, and that's why they had to pull these barrels and use these subpar. That's what they are, subpar barrels, I guess, to make this product. Just my opinion. Sorry if you don't agree with it, but that's why it topped my list of most disappointing of 2019. Moving on to the category you guys all care about, the top 5 whiskeys of 2019. Now, these were things I tried in 2019. Most of them are 2019 releases anyway. I think I got one that isn't, possibly. So, let's get right into number 5. Coming in at number 5, my top whiskeys of 2019, Michter's 10-year. Now, I was fortunate enough to get 2 bottles of this, and I'm glad I did. This is great stuff. I love these bottles. 10-year age statement, but actually what Michter's did this year is they actually chose from 12 and 13-year-old barrels to make up their single barrels. All these bottles are single barrel. So the bottle I have, it definitely gives you that sweet, sweet oak note. If I was guessing, I'd say it's older than 10 years, the bottle I have, but I don't know for sure. Undisclosed where this comes out of. Some say Brown-Forman, some say Heaven Hill. We don't know. Michter's doesn't disclose. Either way, it's delicious. I had to include this in my personal favorite of 2019. I thought this was a great bottling. They did something good with this. It is about $130, but to me, I would pay this again for this bottle. That's how much I enjoyed this. The absolute delicious bourbon notes are awesome. The one negative I will say about this is the proof, 47.2%. So it's a little bit low. You know, again, if proof is amplified, I generally get a longer finish, more of a mouthfeel, and just an amplified flavor. So that's why I enjoy it. So that's why it was a little bit lower on my list for 2019. Coming in at number 4 on my top whiskeys of 2019, Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. How could Elijah Craig Barrel Proof not make the list? Now, this bottling that I have here is the A119, but actually the sample that I got to try that was my favorite was the C919. Another one I got to try right before the end of the year, fortunately. and it was better. The balance that the C batch had this year was just great. I got a lot of oak, and the oak and the sweetness, almost like a vanilla pudding, vanilla ice cream sweetness, but the balance was great. So once again for me, the C batch comes out on top as far as Elijah Craig barrel proof. Years past, I thought the C918 and the C917 were both the best releases from their respective years. And that's the case again. I loved the A batch, I really did. But the proof, almost 70% on the C919, I really thought that would overwhelm the palate and give you like way too much burn. But it didn't. It drank much smoother than that. And like I said, the balance of the two was great. I couldn't leave off an Elijah Craig barrel proof. Barrel proof is a tough category. You know, Stag Junior Batch 12, which unfortunately I didn't get to try this year, was named Whiskey of the Year for another channel out there that just did a whiskey awards or whatnot. And I wish I had been able to try that one. I didn't get to try it, but I think for me, my personal palate, I think I like Elijah Craig barrel proof more than Stag Junior. Batch 9 was incredible, and I definitely like that one better than some of the Elijah Craig barrel proofs I've had. But I'll tell you what, in 2019, C919 takes the cake for me. Coming in at number 3 on my list is another Michter's product, actually. In Michter's Barrel Strength Toasted Barrel Rye. Now, this is just the Barrel Strength Rye, which is another great bottle. The Toasted Barrel Rye I was fortunate enough to get from the distillery when I was there in Kentucky visiting, doing the trail. And it's actually the bottle I brought to Texas, so I got to share it with a lot of people in the whiskey community. And I'm glad I did. You know, I think Matt from Whiskey Crusaders actually has the bottle still. Might be gone now at this point. But I had him take it home because he was driving and I didn't want to ship a half-empty, bottle back. Luckily, I got to drink the bottle though, and I didn't do a review on the channel. I wish I would have before I left for Texas. But so good. I mean, just toasted marshmallow. The rye is just phenomenal. Michter's with their proof, it's not that high because they use a lower entry proof. It was probably about 109, 110 proof, I would say. But I mean, still that barrel strength. Barrel strength rye is a beautiful thing, and the toasted barreling that they do, it just amplifies it to another level. I've been a big fan of toasted finishes, like the double oaked or the 1910. They use that toasted charred barrel as a second barreling finish, if you will. And I've just been liking that lately, I guess. And the Michter's Toasted Rye was no exception. Excellent flavors. Again, like I said, it's like a burnt, crisp marshmallow with all that rye goodness. It had to come in at number 3 on this list. If you can find yourself a bottle of this, you need to pick up the Toasted Barrel Rye. It's a phenomenal product. Coming in at number 2 on our top 5 whiskeys of 2019, Four Roses Limited Edition Small Batch, the 2019 Barrel Strength. Oh, I'm so glad I was able to get a bottle of this. I was able to try like 3 or 4 pours of this. We had a Four Roses event, had a bar locally that had it, so I got to try it there as well. And when I did, I was immediately searching out a bottle trying to find this. Luckily, I had a store near me that got some in, and I was able to get a bottle. Boy, I'm so glad I did. This is one of my favorite releases from Four Roses. It probably is my favorite release from Four Roses I've ever tried personally. Everything about this whiskey is great. They blend older barrels. I forget the age, 11, 15, and 21-year-old barrels or something like that. I'll put it up for you guys. But it's phenomenal. Almost 57% ABV. And the flavors you get out of this, the spice, just think of all the Four Roses single barrels you've had. They mesh these so well together. It gives you phenomenal flavor. I mean, it's just great flavor. This will be included in my Unicorn Week coming up very soon, probably right after this episode. These videos are out. I love this bottle. I really do. It is so good. If you can ever find this, this is one that was $150 all day at $150, and that's a good amount of money. That is a good amount of money. But I would pay that again and again for this bottle because I like it that much. It was really tough for me to keep this off my top, my number 1 spot. but we've got a good one coming up for number 1. So if you can get this 4 Roses though, pick it up now. All right, my number 1 whiskey of 2019, and luckily I had a sample of this sent to me before I even got the bottle of my own. William LaRue Weller, 2019, out of Buffalo Trace. This is my first Buffalo Trace Antique Collection bottle I've ever been able to get myself. Again, Christopher David hooked me up with a sample and let me try it before I even knew I could get this bottle, and it is just mind-blowing. This is the best whiskey I've ever tried. For me personally, hands down, this is the best whiskey I've ever had in my life. And he sent me some great stuff too, but this topped my list. What do you say? I mean, what do you say? This is Buffalo Trace's Wheated Mash Bill, the older Weller products. You know, as I mentioned, I had Weller Foolproof on my other list, and it was great. This just completely takes it to another level. 64%, and it's just so good. I mean, imagine the creamiest, butteriest, just best mouth coating, best finished bourbon you could ever have. And it came through. It delivered that way to me. It's really, it makes me like speechless. It's weird to say that, but this is, like I said, this is the best thing I've ever tried. So it really, I'm so blessed I was able to get a bottle of this. I'm so blessed I was able to try this first. And if you can ever even get a pour of this at the bar, you need to do it. You know, it's obviously incredibly hard to come by these bottles. I was very, very blessed to get this, and you have to try something from the Buffalo Trace Antique Collection if you can. When I tried George T. Stagg last year or 2 years ago, whenever I tried my first one, it really changed my perspective on bourbon. And this kind of did the same thing. It really did. Once I tried it, I was like, wow, like that is what a bourbon, that's the mecca of what a bourbon should taste like, you know? And it is. Oh my gosh, it is. This is a 12-year-old bottling, I believe. I'm sorry, I don't know. I'm just thinking about this bourbon. I kind of want to break it open and pour it now again, but it's great. It's great. Get yourself something from the Buffalo Trace Antique Collection if you can without paying an arm and a leg. Number 1 whiskey of the year, William LaRue Weller, 2019. Anyone who tells me George Dickel Bottled & Bond is better than William LaRue Weller, you're out of your mind. Alright, well thank you all so much for joining me for the 2019 Bourbinsane Whiskey Awards. I don't know if I'll do this format every year, but this was the first year I had a full year. Got to try a lot of things this year that I didn't get to try last year. And I thought it'd be fun to do kind of an award show like this. So I had a great time talking about these, doing these. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Let me know down in the comments below, what is your favorite whiskey of 2019? What's the whiskey you tried in 2019, at least for you personally, that you thought was great and topped your list? I want to know that. One other category I want to know is your most disappointing whiskey 2019. You know, we all have our opinions on that, but what is something you tried in 2019 that you wish you wouldn't have? Or you wish you wouldn't have bought a bottle of? I just want to know what tops your list of most disappointing. If you haven't already, please do check out my Patreon page. Mentioned it a couple times. It's the best way to support the channel. If you are interested in supporting the channel at all, you can join for as little as $3 a month. And it really helps me so much. Helps me acquire bottles, helps me get equipment to do reviews and things like that. And I just appreciate each and every one of you who are watching this. I appreciate each and every one of my patrons. One other thing I want to mention real quick is we still have some challenge coins, batch 2. These are the 5-finger pour challenge coins, and if you watch my live streams, you know what the 5-finger pour is all about. But we've got some of them left. If you are interested, please do shoot me an email, bourbinsane@gmail.com. I will get you taken care of. Happy 2020, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. I will see you all very soon. Stay insane, everyone.